Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. My name is Fletcher Wimbush. I'm your host. Today I have Ryan Schmidt. He is a visionary civil construction leader with a deep commitment to people, purpose, and performance. As a CEO of Petticoat-Schmitt Civil Contractors, he champions a people-first culture while driving innovation, operational excellence in the heavy civil construction contracting space. With nearly 2 decades of leadership at the company he built, Ryan brings unmatched perspective in workforce development, organizational culture, and sustainable growth in the construction space. Ryan, thank you for being here today.
Glad to be here, Fletcher. Looking forward to our time together.
I was looking at your website a little bit just before the call, and you just see it like all over everything you do. I mean, it's almost more about the people that work there than it is about what it is that you do. Was this an epiphany that it happened to you guys at some point where you're like, we need to change how we think about this? I mean, it was just always ingrained in you. I mean, where did this it's about our people before the work kind of mentality come from?
Yeah, great question. And, I'll back up from it and say, it's funny when I first got introduced to you and saw the name of your podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's actually a podcast named after our philosophy. And like
I stole your thing. Your name.
Yeah, we've got people first in a lot of our, we're an EOS run company. So we've got our VTO or Vision Traction Organizer, which we call the Plan to Win. And it's all about people first, our culture and our methodology of running the business. So, to answer your question, I've always been a big, team first type of person, playing sports growing up and just very much committed to succeeding through teams. And obviously teams are made of people, but I think it really, really got deeply ingrained into my journey just through the course of running my company. I've always been in this industry. I'm coming up on 35 years here. And,
wow.
I worked for another company for about half of that and the other half starting and building my company and always committed to building strong teams. But I think probably the biggest thing is just the adversity that we faced during part of our history. We went through part of our history that I call the Valley of Darkness, where we hit on some big projects that went really south on us, and we had some challenging clients to work with, and it was a tremendous hardship of just getting through this valley and from, liquidated about anything that was worth anything to help put money back into the company to fighting legally. And, we did prevail in principle on these issues, but when you settle for about 30 cents on the dollar, I mean, that's just no way to run a business. And so, I spent a ton of nights staring at the ceiling and, wondering how I was going to get through it, and, sold anything and everything that had a value. What I else, refinanced the entire fleet of equipment. I mean, anything and everything. I basically wrote the book on, turning around a fledgling heavy civil construction firm. But we made our way through it. And during that, it was like the loyalty of the team and just the commitment. And, I got very transparent during that time. I've always been open book, but I became like open book to the entire company, not just the leadership team. We share the financials with every single person in the company. I don't care if you're in the ditch as a laborer to a VP, everyone sees it.
Wow.
And then just started sharing the profits and sharing the vision and sharing the commitment. I'm like, we're going to get through this and we're going to be successful. And so coming out of that, we finally righted the ship. We rebuilt the company. We did some really great stuff culturally that because of that hardship, we discovered a lot of things that made us who we are today culturally, how we run the company, our delivery system to our clients. But what really forced me to think about it is, okay, well, what's the long-term play for my future? What does this look like? And I wanted to really kind of reward our employees that helped us get through that. And so I'm like, man, there's just no way I can do anything that just wouldn't reinforce the people of the company. And so from sharing the profits of the company and being open book and then ultimately become an employee owned, and in 2024 I sold 30% of the company to the employees through an ESOP, and the goal is to become 100% in 5 years. And so, because I just realized, I'm like, there's no way I could sell to a private equity or a strategic buyer and just like, hey, thanks, guys. This is going to be really good for me. Not sure what it's going to mean for you.
Not aligned with that people first mentality, then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I went through about a 2-year due diligence of figuring out what this all looks like. What is employee ownership? How does this ESOP work? And, we became an ESOP last year. And I tell everyone I'm Ryan 2.0. I'm more excited to be partners with all our employee owners than I ever was to be the sole owner of the company. And
so for anybody
that ESOP's a big part of it, our transparency. Like every week we share the financials with the whole company through a big company huddle on a big Teams meeting, and just reinforce the company values. And we get together for meals. In fact, this morning we just had our big, every 2 weeks we have an ACT breakfast, which ACT is accountability, character, and team. And we do awesome stuff from shout outs and celebrate birthdays, and we'll do like a small fun game at the end, department reviews. And so it's just a collection of a bunch of things that because of that adversity really put us where we are today, and is kind of our platform, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I think many things in life, right? Adversity, hitting sort of rock bottom for, per se, right, is always how us as humans maybe have some of the biggest transformational moments in our lives and as organizations. Because you always have an opportunity to just quit, I suppose, right, during that period of time. And what got you through that, right? Why say, you know what, I am just going to put it all on the line. I am not going to quit. I am not going to give up on this thing. And I think you mentioned a little bit about the people, but what about them, inspired you to just put it all online, mortgage your home, and just put it all out there, right?
Yeah, because I realized I couldn't quit, right? It's like, I'm so deep into this. It's like, I've got to push into it. And I just remember I wake up in the morning, I say to myself, as I put my feet on the ground, getting out of bed, I'm like, all right, walk into the punch, because, fighting these issues on the job, figuring out how to capitalize the company, how to get through the day. Cash was flying out the windows and doors, and he just trying to get through these jobs. And we've got to complete these jobs, and then we've got to figure out how to get to the other side and prevail through these legal issues. And so it just every day. And then, sometimes I thought it was so overwhelming that I'd show up at work and all of a sudden, people, they were aware of it, and they're like, all of a sudden they're like fired up and like chart. I'm like, man, one day I'd lead the charge, but next thing I had to go in there and I'd have great people around me and they wouldn't leave. Right. This was happening during a really prosperous time. And a lot of our competitors were paying really good incentives and salaries, and no one jumped ship. Right. And, I would hear kind of indirectly, like people would say like, hey, no, I'm going to stay on. I'm staying here. I believe in Ryan's vision. I believe where we're going. But yet they're going without incentives or bonuses. Right. And we're showing, we're losing money, and we're showing it through the transparency of sharing financials. Right. And I'm like, Well, everyone knows it's bad. I don't want them to think it's any worse than it really is. So here I am showing them a pretty ugly story. I
Here it
said,
is.
but this is where we're going, right? This is where we're going. This is what it is now, but here's where we're going and here's how we're going to get there. And the loyalty that people had and not jumping ship and helping me, because I mean, I was like, holy cow. I mean, I had chest pain showing up. I'm like, am I going to stroke out here? Or is it, I learned now is, stress manifesting itself in
anxiety.
these. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, so coming out of that, I
So
just, look and see these faces of these people. I'm like, I mean, there's no other way for me. Yeah.
Yeah, there must have been something, obviously that you'd have done to build some relationships that, allowed these people to say, I want to stick with you prior to this. And then, when kind of the shit hits the fan, now it's kind of wartime. I mean, there is something about, a contentious, challenging situation that I think great people stick together, and it almost creates a stronger bond. I mean, it sounds like you kind of experienced that, but you and then you also had that vision. So that's an interesting piece to this. I mean, I hear this a lot. Without that extra piece, well, we're in it today, but tomorrow looks like this. And I think every great leader has always shared some sort of vision there, right? I don't know. I'm trying to, how did you set that foundation going to this unknown adversity? I mean, it sounds like, you probably didn't expect this to happen, right? What were maybe some of the things you did foundationally prior to that? And then I want to get into some of how the transformation went, because it sounds like obviously you've continued to double, triple down on this as well, right?
Yeah, that's a great question because you're right. It was a solid relationship foundation that I had built long before we hit the Valley of Darkness. And yeah, I guess some good examples are like what I did back then and still do today. Like we have like a 2 full day new hire orientation where every single employee goes through. If you're, a little higher in leadership, you have a longer one, but everyone solid 2 full days. And, the first 2 hours, I'm with every single employee, and I'm in there. I'm leading that first 2 hours, and we talk about, hey, where are you from? Tell me about your family. What are your passions, your interests? What do you like to do? What's your work history? Getting to know every single person personally before they start their
In a little
Petticoat-Schmitt
context,
journey.
you're not like a small company. I mean, you guys are 250 plus folks.
Yeah, we're 300 people actually. Yeah, we hit 300 this week, and
you're
so
taking the time to connect with every person at every level.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it, just getting to know everyone, and it's amazing though. I get so much feedback during those. Like, gosh, the companies I worked for, I never even met the owner. Never mind spending 2 hours with them the very first day I joined the company. And so not only we get to know each other personally, because I share my own personal history and background, interests and hobbies, but then I'll give them the history of the company, how we got where we are, what we do, how we do it. I talk a lot about the culture. I go through our vision, our 10-year vision, our three-year goal, our 1-year goal, all our core values, the core story, the purpose, everything, and just really get to know every single person. And I think that builds a solid foundation. And then from there, like I do a lot of feedback sessions. I'll show up on a job site with food in the morning or at lunch, and like, hey, I'll feed you, but I want feedback. What's going good, not so good? If we're eating a year from now, what has to happen over the year to be successful? What would you do if you were me? And I've been doing that for a long time too. And so people are accustomed to that now, and they're very vocal. And when they see changes being made in the company based on that feedback, I mean, that's real powerful. So to your question, just building those small little, areas of just commonality, as well as, listening, and people feel like they're listened to. And so we get a lot of comments that people feel like, man, this feels like more like a family, less like a company.
Yeah.
And so that really helped going into the Valley of Darkness, having those relationships.
Speaking to other leaders, I would imagine there are many leaders that might listen to this or be, trying to grow their business and going, I can't spend, all that time with a lot of new hires. I mean, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of time, right? And let alone then the follow along, time, the follow up with every level, of person in your organization, right? I would imagine there's a lot of CEOs or leaders out there in the space that are just like, I don't have time for that, right? So how did you overcome that mindset of like, I've got other things to do?
So I was that guy, because as we grew, I was the president of the company, and I, just doing everything. And I was in my office a lot, head down, grinding. And then about 2017, we started practicing EOS, made popular by the book Traction. But I always said, I'm the visionary and the integrator. We're a construction company. Yeah. We're not Apple or Microsoft. Do we need a visionary? That was the last piece of that whole system that I fully embraced. But when I did, back in 2021, 22, and I named a president and moved to the CEO position as a true visionary. The president and CEO, he is in charge of the day-to-day operations. And that freed me up to, one, focus on the future, being a true visionary, and relationships. Yeah. Not only client relationships, but the relationship of all our employees. And so that freed me up to make all this time, to spend time with everyone, go out in the field, get out in front of people and truly get a feel for how they're feeling, what we can do better, meet all these employee owners and not be overly stressed. And so that was a huge transition for me. And when I did it, I was like, oh man, what am I doing? Right. I felt so comfortable just grinding out and doing the stuff, right. And to where I'm like, okay, well, I delegated that out. And I'm like, what? I'm going to go hang out and have a good time and just eat with people and talk to them. It almost feels like it's not working. But I realized, I literally did it 4 different times just this week. And it's still to this day becomes so powerful. And everyone says like, hey, don't quit doing that. And so building that relationship and listening to people and then actually tweaking the business based on what people are saying is wildly powerful. And it's one of those things like I should have been doing that years ago. But it's funny, I was doing it naturally when we were 50 people, but when you're 250, 300,
that seems impossible.
You got to do it a different way. So it took some time, but I got there.
Yeah. Well, and it's just must be sort of difficult to mentally, emotionally let go of that, operational hat, right? And then to pay probably somebody a lot of money to do that too. You probably, these are some of the feedbacks I hear from CEOs a lot of times, right? It's like, well, I can't afford to hire that person, or I can't give that up, or even, just nobody can do it like I can do it, right? Mm-hmm. In that role. So how did you overcome some of that?
So yeah, I hear that all the time, and super valid questions, and questions I ask myself too. And it's like, well, one, you have to have a clear idea what your future looks like, and almost take the step off the cliff. Like, yeah, I can't afford to play that person. Yeah. I think all strategic hires like that, you should be saying that. Oh my gosh, I can't. Yeah, you can't afford to, but you can't afford not to if you want to go where you're going, right? Yeah. And overhead is not smooth. It's chunky. You spend a lot more and then you grow into it. Spend more and then you grow into it. But you got to have a clear vision of where you're going, and that helps you do that first. And then secondly, and I told this to one of our leaders just yesterday, because he took on a bigger load and he was feeling a little stressed. And I said, you know what? You've got to understand that if you delegate something that you can do 100% good to someone who can do it 80 to 90% as good, that's awesome, right? Yeah, you're never going to get 100%, but if you can free up yourself to do something else, and that's being done at 80 to 90%, that person, one, is probably going to work their way closer to 100, someday even do it better than you. But if you get 2 or 3 people doing 80 or 90%, which you can only do one thing, right, at 100%, you're awesome. You've
Yeah.
won, and that
Yeah.
those people are getting better, and that's something that I embrace too. I'm like, I just be satisfied that maybe it's not going to be done as well as me, but almost every time that person winds up doing it better than me, and I'm
Yeah, they
like,
might. Well, they
thank
might end up doing
goodness.
it different, and different might be better. I mean, again, there's obviously a level, a standard that will always need to be met. But 80% today, and as you said, they get closer to 100, and also again, different too could be better. You don't even know it, right? Because we're all stuck in our own bias in terms of like
Yeah.
this is how it has to be done. Well, maybe not, right? Um,
Yeah, and as long as you set the values and the direction of the company, and that's what I found. The more I'm freed up from the day to day, I become as a CEO. I'm the chief excitement officer. I'm the chief explanation officer. Right. I'm the chief engagement officer. Those are the things that I'm doing. So if I just become the biggest cheerleader about how we're doing it and where we're going, that
yeah.
clarity helps everyone else do their job, and no one can be as clear and concise with on those things as the CEO or the visionary of the
Yeah.
company.
So I mean, everything just keeps coming back to like setting the visions, reinforcing the values, investing the time personally to do that, whether that be in this new hiring or the new hire onboarding process, and spending the money to do that, put people through 2 days. So, I mean, I can't keep hearing some of these. We're just going to make this investment, right? I would think a lot of companies would say, well, 2 day training for a pipe layer or a truck driver, like, no way, I'm not spending that money to do that. I'm getting them in the field, right? And we're putting them to work, um, you know, and just skip bypassing all of those things. And then, of course, making that investment to free your time up to triple, quadruple down on this, visionary and value, and for excitement, or champion within the company, seems to have made a tremendous difference, and it got you through this valley of darkness, which might not have been the case if you hadn't had made that investment, uh, that uh, that capital, emotional capital that you created. As it might be one to think of. That's
Yeah, and
cool.
it's also allowed us, now that we're out of it, not only we're doing all that training, we built like a dedicated training facility we call the
Mhm.
Forge, which is an on hands or hands-on skills training. It's got a classroom, it's got, an outside area where guys can do, hands-on skills training. We pulled some of our best people out of production and made them full-time trainers. I mean,
Wow.
we're doing unique stuff in our space that it all results from what we went through in that commitment to training and growing and developing people.
And that's a huge capital investment, I would assume, and that's a pretty scary thing to do. So you're
It
developed,
is.
but in this climate with the trades in particular, right? These people, either coming with not the best skill sets, or no skill set necessarily, or limited skill set, right? You don't really have a choice but to develop these people, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, that's our goal. A lot of people in our industry are like, oh, there's no good workers out there. Oh, the trades are dying. We're not buying in on that. No, no. We're going to find great people, and we're going to make them great skilled craftsmen, and help grow them. I mean, we got career advancement guides for every position in the company.
Mm.
We're constantly working on helping people build their skill set so they can improve the value for our company. And who knows, maybe they move on, go to another company.
Yeah.
Shame on us if we can't keep them. But um we want to pour into people to help them improve their futures by giving them skills, giving them opportunities, and in our case, ownership. They have ownership of the company, which just this compounds that interest, I think, not only in the people who are getting trained, but who are part of the company, and imagine what the future could look like.
Yeah, you're really nailing a bunch of really important, I think, core human concepts, right? So, as humans, growth and is really important. I mean, I don't know any human that isn't like trying to advance themselves, their family, and that's both, personally as well as professionally, because we spend a lot of time at work. So those things blend together, and you're creating a system and a structure that's clear to people on how we're going to develop you, and to be able to measure and to celebrate those growth opportunities. And then, of course, that vision being absolutely critical North Star there. And I've experienced that myself, and having been lost as a teenager, going, what am I doing with my life? And then beginning to identify a clearer vision for my own life, and what a transformation that made for me, because now every decision I made could be pegged to that vision, right? And I think unfortunately some folks struggle in that area, but if we can help them, somebody in our company, or whether being clear about the vision for the people on the team, then things more naturally tend to gravitate towards that, right?
Yeah, very much so. And if we provide an awesome place to work where they feel like they're valued, they're excited to come into work on Monday mornings versus having that pit in your stomach on Sunday night. You're right, like you got to go to work. If they want to go to work because of the cool stuff we're doing, the way we share it. I mean, we share all the cool stuff we do on our own internal app. It's really cool stuff, and people like coming to work, and then like, oh wow, and then I can grow and have a future here. They can see they can have a future. I think it just, to me, it changes construction. It makes it just an awesome place to work and just build great things and build great people.
Yeah, I think people thrive on that. And, you hear a lot from the talent base that they're like, I don't see where this is going, so I'm just going to quit and go do something else. I'm going to try something else because I don't see a path here. I don't see a vision here, right? So that's a pretty good fundamental. So you really hit on a lot of things. Just one quick thing before we wrap up. So how has this affected your ability to attract talent?
So it's only helped it. Everything we do to create our people first culture, and we talk about it all the time, organically has just kind of gotten out there. We get a lot of feedback that people hear really good things. Especially when we do really well as a company, we're open book and we share the profits of the company. And when we have a big distribution based on the profits, people are talking about it. And now that we're employee owned too, people are looking and they're seeing that. And once they're really finding out what that's all about, we just had our first stock price reveal a few weeks ago, and everyone was real excited. We made a big deal out of it, and everyone got their statements, and they saw how many shares they own. They saw what the price is. And all of a sudden it's real. You're like, oh my gosh, if this only grows, and I'm working here for, my career, there's some phenomenal things. And so the word, is getting out some. And I think the more we can just educate our own team, and it gets out more and more.
So they start talking to their network ultimately, and explaining this to them, and on a barbecue on a Sunday, and to their cousin, brother, friend, or whatever, right? And that's a little bit of a different story that their friends maybe have not heard from other people in their careers, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's really, really powerful stuff, Ryan. What's the best way to get in touch with you, or what kinds of contacts would be great for you? How can we assist you to get the word out about your organization? Whether it be sharing career opportunities or future projects. Anything like that.
Yeah, so definitely take a look at our website, petticoat-schmitt.com. Any potential, employees, you can register online. We're pretty active on LinkedIn, especially. I mean, all the social medias, but I'm particularly active on LinkedIn. But we'd also do Facebook and Instagram. And you can see a lot about what we're doing and hear a lot of the voices of our team. And so, we'd love to talk to anyone, whether it's, future employment opportunities or going out and building site development, public works, or treatment plant projects.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine if somebody is interested in making this investment and they're choosing between you and another provider, it's something that should be heavily considered on whether or not, you want to work with a company that has such strong values and visions and development for their people, versus the lowest priced, provider out there. And then obviously for the people that are looking for a long-term career, a place where they can actually grow and develop and be an owner in this in their own future here. I think that's a great story. So we'll be sharing, small clips and this on YouTube, and everybody can, get in touch with, Ryan's organization via the website and check out their careers page and, obviously apply, let them know you listened to this podcast and that you were inspired and this is the kind of company you want to work for. I'm sure you guys would be excited to chat with people who are aligning with your vision here and resonate with this message, right?
No doubt.
Awesome. Thank you for being on, Ryan.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Fletcher.
Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.